Welcome to our presentation on becoming more assertive. Too many of us fail to fulfill our needs because we say no rather than yes. Yes, when we should say no. Quote by William Glacier. Being assertive is a trait individuals tend to shy away from, especially in the workplace and professional settings. Despite the cultural or personal reasons behind this, it is important for individuals to know the vital benefits of being assertive in working environments and in their day-to-day lives. During our presentation, we will talk all about assertiveness. My name is Valerie, and I will start us off by talking about what assertiveness in the workplace looks like. Then, Aaron will discuss potential barriers which may inhibit us from acting on assertive behaviors. Chris will then go on to talk about how we can become assertive. Before Connie will finish us off talking about the importance of assertiveness. So what does assertiveness in the workplace look like? Well, when you hear the word assertive, the image that follows is that of someone in leadership, someone who is confident, firm in their decisions, have good negotiating skills, and is able to maintain professionalism. But this calls for the right balance. The workplace calls for the right balance of passive and aggressive communication. However, it's important to maintain a balance in your assertiveness, as according to Dasgupta, Soor, and Singh in the article Impact of Managerial Communication Styles on Employee Attitudes and Behaviors in 2013. In a nutshell, being too low or too high in assertiveness was viewed as a leadership weakness. Being too passive can impede your professional career and cause you to become unmemorable to important people. At the same time, being too aggressive can deter people from wanting to work with you, and you can lose valuable opportunities from this. Assertiveness in the workplace also appears in teams. Assertiveness is important when working on teams, where you have to work with people with different mindsets. And working on a team can provide plenty of opportunities to share your ideas and work with others to get the job done. According to Tripathy in the article Assertiveness, a win-win approach to business communication published in the IUP Journal of Soft Skills. In business, it is crucial to understand the fact that a firm runs successfully only through proper communication, keeping everyone's interests, motives, feelings, thoughts, opinions, rights safe and secured without hurting. Being assertive and professional can be difficult for some, but it's important to remember to establish your boundaries, to voice your input, maintain composure in difficult times, to monitor the tone of your voice, and to be mindful of what you say, as this all can have an impact on your career and your coworkers and employers' perceptions of you. Now I have a video to show that will show different scenarios of what being assertive and non-assertive looks like.
Refusing a request, non-assertive. When we're being non-assertive, it can come across like we're a bit of a pushover, unable to say no. It's important to be able to say no and to feel comfortable with it. Often we can feel awkward because we don't want to feel like we're being uncaring. Nigel, I need to file a report by tomorrow lunchtime, and I'm going to need your part of it by 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, please.
Oh, okay. I've actually got quite a lot on this afternoon, so that might be a bit difficult. No, well, no, I can Get it done this afternoon, work later, get it to you for tomorrow morning.
Good, yeah. 9 o'clock latest, please.
Okay, sure, okay. Refusing a request, assertive. When we're non-assertive, we can come across as a pushover, never able to say no. It's important to be able to say no and feel comfortable, even if we feel awkward, because we don't want to come across as uncaring. In some situations, when the request comes from a boss, or when saying no will impact negatively upon someone else, it's important to aim for a mutually workable compromise.
Hi, John. I've just had a request from head office and they've pulled the review forward by 1 day and I need to file a report by tomorrow lunchtime. I understand that may put a strain on your workload, but I am going to need your part of the report by 5:30 so I can work on it this evening and have it ready for tomorrow.
I understand you need my part of the report by 5:30, and that's going to be a problem for me to do. I've got commitments running through the afternoon, and I will have to leave on time.
Okay, I appreciate that you do have commitments this evening and do need to leave on time. And I do need to get your part of the report by 5:30. How much can you get done? Yeah, it should only take about an hour or so.
Well, I could do half of it before I leave today and the rest early tomorrow morning.
Okay, and then I can work on my part later on. Yeah, I suppose I could do that, providing you get your part of it to me by 9 o'clock latest though.
Okay, I'll make sure I get it to you by then.
These are only some of the different ways in which assertiveness in the workplace can look like. Now, Aaron will discuss the barriers to becoming assertive.
There are numerous reasons as to why people cannot be assertive and what hinders them from communicating assertively. But before I go into that, I want to go over the different types of communication styles. So according to Nick Wignall in Assertiveness, a step-by-step guide to becoming more assertive in 2021, there are 4 types of communication styles: passive communication, aggressive communication, passive-aggressive communication, and assertive communication. So passive communication entails going along with other people's requests and suggestions at the expense of your own wishes. On the other hand, aggressive communication is the exact opposite of passive, in which people will try to force others to do what they want at the expense of others' own wishes. Next, we have passive-aggressive communication. This style is the combination between both passive and aggressive and is described as a way of expressing people's frustrations and dissatisfactions while avoiding responsibility for the consequences of their own actions. And lastly, we have assertive communication, which is the middle ground between both being passive and aggressive. This communication style exemplifies people who clearly and respectfully ask for what they desire and decline what they do not desire. So moving along to the barriers, one important barrier we need to confront is the feeling of being afraid to communicate what we want. This is apparent across all 4 communication styles that I just mentioned. So in the passive communication style, people who communicate passively are afraid of being judged by others for what they really want. They will usually try to avoid drama and gossip instead of standing up for what they want in any given situation. In aggressive communication, people who communicate aggressively put others down to pick themselves up because it gives them a feeling of confidence. This also helps alleviate themselves of any insecurities that they may have. Those who engage in passive aggressive communication want the satisfaction of expressing their frustrations or dissatisfactions in situations without taking responsibility for its consequences when doing so. So some examples include gossiping about a coworker to another coworker instead of confronting them head on about what they don't like about their work performance, or by making sarcastic jokes to them. Thus, this person with the passive aggressive style is afraid to firmly communicate their thoughts and feelings toward whoever they have conflict with. But however, for those who do engage in assertive communication when they speak up for what they want, some may feel some type of discomfort and backlash, such as feeling anxious and nervous, vulnerable due to inadvertently exposing potential insecurities and fears, and taking responsibility for their own actions. So on to the next barrier. According to Margarita Tartakovsky in 5 More Obstacles That Prevent You from Being Assertive in 2015, Being indecisive and not knowing what your needs and wants are may stem from being too focused on others' needs and wants. You must recognize and acknowledge your own needs and wants by evaluating what makes you angry and defensive. What needs have been met and unmet? This is especially important so that you can gather help from yourself and other people to meet your needs. On to barrier 3. So, not having enough self worth by thinking your own needs don't matter. And what I mean by that is that you are being too modest and it also hinders us and makes us become too passive. Thus, we may end up becoming angry with ourselves and others when our needs are unmet. That is why it is especially important to know what your needs are and why they are important to you. So, barrier number 4 is forgetting that the other person that you're communicating to is also human. Um, this barrier is associated with either being too passive aggressive in your communication with other people. Forgetting that the other person that you're communicating with is also human may entail that those with a passive communication style is too fixated on the other person's role or position, such as being one's boss, parent, or another higher figure. Thus, this may lead to intimidation when really we should just focus on having all of our needs met. As for the aggressive folks, they are too fixated on trying to one up or compete with others for them to be able to thoroughly express their wants and needs. Instead, these types of people um, need to remember that the person they are communicating with also has needs that matter. So we also need to become more mindful and considerate of others' needs. And second to last, barrier number 5 is being too frazzled or flustered when trying to be assertive. So what I mean by that is that we try to become assertive with someone, but then we start to feel anxious. So then our minds cannot think clearly and rationally. We end up going into a flight or fight response, which is usually characterized by being too aggressive or passive in our response to someone. For example, when we try to say something, something might end up happening, and we might actually say something different, but we actually didn't mean that. And lastly, we have barrier number 6. We are insecure in our own abilities. So being insecure in our own abilities is described by not having confidence in ourselves or being able to believe that we can be assertive. Being assertive doesn't happen overnight unless we are just naturally talented at asserting our own thoughts. But being assertive takes practice and is followed by trial and error. Some statements of faltering may include, "Oh, I forgot to mention this," or "I hope I didn't offend you when I said this earlier." But honestly, this is okay. Like, it's all trial and error, and we just need to take time to practice this. So now that we've heard some of the barriers that come with being assertive, Chris will explain some techniques to becoming more assertive.
To begin, we will discuss assertiveness training. Basically, the purpose of assertiveness training, or AT, is that it teaches people new ways of listening and talking. Most literature out there concerns the nonverbal and paralinguistic components of assertiveness, such as eye contact, hand and arm position, posture, smiling, tone of voice, speech latency, and speech fluency. Clear oral communication is crucial to a definition of assertiveness, and verbal skills have been shown to be an essential factor in the performance of assertion. Listeners are more receptive of negative assertion from friends than from strangers, but refusals from friends do hurt more. Assertive speakers, while being skilled in assertion, can be viewed as less likable, less friendly, and less pleasant than non-assertive speakers. Knowing this, you can plan accordingly to come off in a better light when you make the move to be assertive. Now we will touch on the 3 common components of assertiveness training, that being reduction of anxiety, cognitive restructuring, and training the necessary communication skills. With the reduction of anxiety, there's a fine line you have to toe, as we've mentioned previously in our presentation, where you have to be not too aggressive and not too passive, and this can be an anxious thing trying to toe that line, but with more practice, the anxiety will go away and it will become easier. It's all about balance. Cognitive restructuring is where you're expected to be able to make requests and refusals, express feelings, and be the person to carry the conversation. Requests and refusals are 2 speech acts commonly utilized in daily life and prominent assertiveness training. Training the necessary communication skills. Speakers are taught to be direct, and requests should be interrogatives, not indirect statements or hints. and refusals should be given without excuses or apologies. Here is an example of a direct request. Would you please take out the trash? This is textbook assertiveness. You're making a firm request, and it's not too far-fetched for the person to overreact to your request. Whereas an indirect statement would look something like this. Man, the trash is looking kind of full. This indirect statement would be considered non-assertive, as you aren't making a request, you're just hinting to the person about taking out the trash. Ultimately, the person wishes you would have just asked them to take out the trash, because now there's this uneasy feeling and it's awkward. Now, we will talk about the 3 basic definitions of assertiveness, which focus on consequences of behavior, self-expression, or rights. Being assertive involves asking others what you want, refusing what you don't want, and expressing a positive and negative message with others. First, assertive behavior is interpersonal behavior involving the honest and relatively straightforward expression of thoughts and feelings. This relates to things like being blunt, using a firm tone of voice, your speech latency and fluency, as we mentioned previously. Second, we have assertive behavior is socially appropriate. This explains that being assertive is not the same as being aggressive, as mentioned previously. You can't be too firm or too passive, but being in the middle is where you want to be. Third, we have when a person is behaving assertively, the feelings and welfare of others are taken into account. This is about you have to analyze your surroundings and context and know when and what to say and where to deploy it. It comes with practice, but over time, you will improve your skills. Lastly, speakers are encouraged to focus on their own feelings rather than the actions or attributes of others. As the speaker, you're expected to use verbs that express feelings, desires, beliefs, or needs. Mind reading or guessing how others feel is discouraged. With this, you have to put yourself first in situations which will come off strange because you feel like you're making the conversation about you, but it will become easier over time, and naturally, you will be more assertive. You're also expected to express positive and negative feelings by using many I, me statements where the speaker, you, are the subject of the sentence. This also goes hand in hand with putting yourself first. Now that we've talked about all of these ways to being assertive, we have a list of benefits of assertive behavior. So we chose our 5 favorite reasons on why you should be more assertive, and we're going to tell them about you now.
Our first reason is the promotion of equality amongst one another, followed by a higher rate of goal achievements, greater quality of interpersonal relationships, increase of self-confidence, and better mental health. According to Postolati in the article Assertiveness, Theoretical Approaches and Benefits of Assertive Behavior, published in the Journal of Innovation, Psychology, Education, and Didactics, assertiveness promotes equality in human relationships. The article quotes Alberti and Emmons, whose research on assertiveness proves its usefulness in allowing individuals to act in light of their own interest, which in turn allows for them to stand up for oneself without embarrassment, boldly expressing one's true feelings. By doing so, it is less likely for individuals to find themselves being coerced by others. Assertiveness also allows for greater success in achieving personal goals. Researchers Porjali and Zarnagash discuss this reason for this benefit in their article, Relationships Between Assertiveness and the Power of Saying No with Mental Health Among Undergraduate Students. The study claims that individuals who take initiative in creating their own goals and aspirations, as opposed to being given goals, not only engage in goal-directed behaviors, but also show incredible grit and resilience when faced with failure. Intrinsically pursued goals are typically reached due to diligent decision-making and commitment. Postolati's previously mentioned article on assertiveness also supports the existing relationship between being assertive and experiencing better relationship quality. Because assertive people tend to be more confident in themselves, they are able to express themselves in a genuine and relaxed way, without aggression or violation of others' sentiments. Ultimately, this allows them to create more positive encounters and relationships with people, as well as allows them to see others as appealing due to their own ability to believe in relationships built on trust. Assertiveness creates the emotional stability needed to have more enriching relationships that as humans immensely embellish our overall quality of life. As I mentioned in the previous slide,
Assertiveness makes you confident. And I'm sure this may appear a little too obvious considering confidence is almost a part of the definition of being assertive, but it's important nonetheless. Because assertive behavior promotes problem solving, the absence of anxious thoughts, and the ability to express oneself and communicate properly, one is more likely to succeed in numerous aspects of life, such as the academia world and their social lives. Having the ability to succeed in welcoming failure as a learning opportunity as opposed to fearing it boosts self esteem. Confidence is created as a result of the many other benefits to being assertive. It nurtures individuals who are able to handle failure and believe they are competent or at least able to become confident with time and experience. Mental health is the last benefit we're going to cover, and it's probably the most relevant to us as college students. It's so easy for young adults to feel enormous amounts of stress, anxiety, and isolation, which is why this benefit alone is worth taking a few extra steps towards being more assertive. As we covered, confidence reduces stress, which can sometimes feel so overwhelming. We may experience a drop in our mental health and even at times manifest physical symptoms. Having the power to say no and assert your personal boundaries with others protects you from having experiences where you may feel manipulated, disrespected, or hurt. The power of taking charge of yourself and your life is so powerful that it's been adapted to treat individuals with depression and low mental health as well as substance abuse. According to the research article, Effective Assertive Community Treatment for Patients with Substance Use Disorder, assertive community treatment allows for individuals to show initiative by taking part in impacts made in their neighborhoods. So, this typically looks like offering services in local communities. Now that we've reached the end of our presentation, it is safe to say that you are all experts on what it means to be assertive. By leading more assertive lives, we gear ourselves with tools such as confidence and self esteem, which allows us to more easily navigate communication with others. Thank you.